You're listening to Heating Up the UK,
a Miami Heat UK-based podcast, bringing you the best Heat media guests every single week.
Here's your host, Dan Healy.
Brought to you by the Miami Heat UK social media network. Enjoy the show.
Hello and welcome to episode 44 of Heating Up the UK, a Miami Heat's UK-based podcast. I am your host, Dan Healy, and before we come into today's episode, I just want to thank everybody who has checked out our latest venture on the YouTube channel, which is our live streaming show pre-game before every game. It is game day from the UK, where four guys come together just to chat about the upcoming game, and it has been a great amount of fun. We've only done 3 so far, but it's been brilliant. Thank you so much to everybody that has joined in the chat, etc. It's early days. We're not going to be hitting hangover time levels or anything like that anytime soon, but it has been real fun. So thank you so much for everybody that has jumped in. We do this at 8:30 UK time. That's 3:30 over Eastern time in the US. So whatever side of the pond you're on, come and join us for 20-30 minutes pre-game, and we'll have a bit of fun. But it has been great. And while you're there, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. That is Miami Heat UK TV. On to today's episode, and I'm delighted to be joined by another fantastic member of the Miami Heat Beats alumni. It's Jack Alfonso. Jack, how you doing, mate?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for joining me, because I understand it has been a rough week in Texas. How are you?
Yeah, it's been a rough week. We were talking about it a little beforehand. Been without power, so we had to delay this. You were kind enough to delay it for me. But power's back on and I'm ready to go.
Great stuff, great stuff. Yeah, I'm pleased that it's warming up a little bit. You've got some heat and power back. Yeah, it's obviously that's been pretty scary. So I'm pleased things are good for you. You join a better time, I suppose, because 24 hours or so ago, Heat Twitter once again was in the latest meltdown. It was civil war once again after dropping 2 pretty bad games, 2 infuriating games to the Clippers and the Warriors. Before we come on to that, obviously a good bounce back win last night against Sacramento Kings. For me, Jack, this was a really pleasing performance because I didn't hold up much hope. I thought the Kings were well rested. They hadn't played since Monday. We was off of obviously a second night of a back-to-back after going to overtime as well. I thought maybe spirits and morale might be a bit down after letting that one slip through our fingers. But I thought last night it was a 100% well-controlled. That we played it at our tempo. There was some great performances all the way through. We'll dive into it a little bit, but before I go any further, what did you make of last night's win?
I think you can't really be picky about wins at this point. You know, this is not a wonderful team. So just to see them basically play the whole game, you know, like the problem has been that they've been giving up leads and stuff and that they haven't really been playing throughout. I think the win was really encouraging. And I honestly think the most encouraging thing were some of the comments that Jimmy Butler had after the game, where he was acknowledging that this team is not very good right now and that they kind of had to stop the bleeding and get back to like work their way back to a team that wanted to be taken seriously. And I thought that's what this game was them kind of acknowledging the place they are at within the NBA. They don't look like the former finals team.
No. And
they really need to kind of claw their way back into relevance.
Yeah, that's a good point, and that is sort of well summarised by Jimmy, because yeah, as we said, it was infuriating to drop those 2 games, and especially when, you know, we had big leads twice really in that last game against Warriors, and it was a little bit of there was a little bit of terrors coming back at some point last night in I think the 3rd and the 4th, where big leads got back to within 10 and you thought, oh, here we go, is it going to happen again? But they saw it through, and there was a lot of really promising performances, which we'll come on to. But one thing that I thought that sort of stood out last night was, as I just mentioned, I thought the tempo, you know, the Kings are quite a fast team, and we're not a fast team, so I thought we'd done really well to control that tempo. But one of the most pleasing things is we didn't sort of resort to just throwing up threes all the time. We was cutting. Kelly Olynyk, Duncan Robinson was cutting really well. And when we found that success, we stuck to it all the way through the game. And I thought that was such a key to last night's victory. Do you agree?
Absolutely. I think I was talking with another Heat Beat guy, Alphonse Sidney, been on your show before. Yep. He was basically at halftime, we were saying the same thing, that, you know, they were attacking the rim with success, and Alf was just like, I hope they remember that coming out of the half, like that they can do this, because we've seen it time and time again where even when they find success going to the rim, that just after halftime they come out and they seem to forget that and they just start chucking up threes. And it was nice to see the consistency. They didn't get lazy. They played an entire 48 minutes despite, you know, there were times where the Kings tried to, I think, creep back into the game. It wasn't a blowout by any means, but they did play a full 48 minutes. They played like a team that really needed this win. And I think it should inspire some confidence, the fact that they were able to do that for the entire game without, resorting to the threes.
Yeah, definitely. I mentioned on our pre-game show before this game that Kelly Olynyk was either absolutely brilliant or absolutely awful. There's no in between this season with Kelly. I sympathise with Kelly because he's sort of the best of the bad lot at the moment for our position in the four. So he's holding it down. Last night he was exceptional. There was a sort of audition off, if you like, between him and Belitza, who we've been quite heavily linked with. But Kelly's performance last night, that's arguably his best of the season.
Yeah, I thought Kelly played really well. And I do think you're right that he's gotten a lot of flack, maybe undeservedly, because, he hasn't been playing great, but nobody's been playing great. And he is by far their best power forward right now. We've talked a lot about Bielitsa. I would like to see him on this team, but I don't think he replaces Kelly. I think it would be nice to have him if they can get him in addition to Kelly to kind of have that reserve. But it was interesting to see because Bielitsa played, he had 25 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists. He had a pretty good game as well. He was playing really impressively. I think it was clear that he was trying to impress Pat Riley, maybe.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not sure it's a massive upgrade. So I think if you could get both of them in there, I think that would be a win. I think we consider that as a win, so that would be great. My favourite moment of the night last night was Bam Adebayo dunking all over the former the backup Kings centre Hassan Whiteside. That was fantastic. And then also at the end of the game, the cameras picked up. Whilst we hope that Bam was doing a bit of recruiting, talking to De'Aaron Fox, he was completely blanking Hassan Whiteside as well. What did you make of that moment?
I think we all, I've got no ill will towards Whiteside, but it is always nice to see, I think, Bam kind of, show something against the former teammate. It's a satisfying moment. And I think Bam has had some struggles recently. And, I think he's had an overall impressive season, but it was nice to see him get the triple-double and Jimmy, get another triple-double. Yep. They're playing great. I think it's clear that Bam and Jimmy have given you no reason to lack any confidence in them, right? Like that core is stable, that's strong. You have something strong to build around.
Yep.
And if you're hoping for them to kind of get out of this hole where they're under 500, you have no worries that whatever trade you're going to make, that Jimmy and Bam give you a certain level on both defense and offense where, there's some stability there, even if you make some kind of wholesale changes. Because I don't expect this roster to stay the same past the deadline.
No, I don't either. We'll come on to that in a second. We'll throw a couple of names up there and get your thoughts on that. But you lead me on quite nicely there with you said that the core is good, which it definitely is. Now, this is a team that when you look at, for example, performances like last night, which is a very good performance, several players played exceptionally well. Obviously, 2 triple-doubles from Butler and Bam. We had Tyler Herro, who top scored, I think, with 27 points, if I remember rightly. Kendrick Nunn with a nice, subtle 16 points. He was looking good as well. He looked right in rhythm at the moment. As we've already mentioned, Kelly Olynyk was very good as well. There was lots of great performances there. So when we're winning, the team looks good. But when we're losing, I know this is it seems like an obvious thing to say, but when we're losing, it seems like it's a very bad team and there's so many holes. Now we've spoke about it. I'm sure you guys have as well. Is that when you look at it when we are losing, you look at the needs for a genuine point scorer, so somebody that can comfortably get you mid-20s to early 30s every game. I'm not sure that he had that. We're asking a lot of Butler to do that week in, week out, or day in, day out. We don't really have any real rim protection. We're struggling, obviously, as we've said at the fore. So there seems like a lot of positions and a lot of areas that do need to be addressed when we're losing. From your point of view, what would you say that is the most urgent? Do you think it's more like a genuine point guard or somebody that is going to throw up 25 points every night guaranteed? Or do you see it more on defensive point of view? What would you go for if you the glaringly obvious area for improvement?
Well, I think there are a lot of areas, and I think you addressed them. As weird as it seems, like they have been a good defensive team, right? I think they're like top 5 in the league in defense, and there are certain things that like they give up a lot of threes, and that's a big reason why, the Clippers and Warriors game, like those teams were able to come back because you have like Morris going off from 3, or you leave Steph open or something like that. I don't think the defense is the biggest issue, though. I think the biggest change between last year and this year, where even last year they weren't an exceptional defensive team, not like they are this year, but they were a really good shooting team last year, and they're not a good shooting team this year. They have, I think, 140% 3-point shooter in Avery Bradley, and Duncan Robinson's at like 39% or something, but they just don't have the volume. They don't have like a Jay Crowder who was shooting, kind of out of his mind last year. He's shooting like above 40%. You had Tyler Herro who was shooting really well from 3. And I think part of the reason the team looked really good last night is like Kendrick Nunn went 4 for 8 from 3. Duncan Robinson was able to get free and get 20 points, but with defenses keying in on Robinson, and if you don't have any other shooters out there, it really looks rough. So I think they need shooting and just generally scoring. And I think a point guard would really help to, because I think turnovers have been a big issue for them. And I think you can't trust Goran to be in the lineup very consistently, because I just think coming off the injury last year in a shortened off season, it would be nice to take some pressure off of him and then get somebody who can kind of handle the offense. Because I think we've seen Tyler Herro is not best suited to play point guard. It would be nice to have somebody who can take control, take a little pressure off of guys like Jimmy Butler and Goran and Bam, who can handle the ball and can create a little bit, but are not, true point guards, or in Goran's case, is a little older. So scoring and playmaking, I think, is where they need to fill that need, whether it's at point guard or power forward. However they do it, it's just they need some offensive firepower.
I totally agree with you. So now I'm going to put you on the spot and say, so who is that player then that could be available? Because not necessarily right now. If we decide to just make some tweaks at the moment, which is what I believe they will do, I think there'll be a couple of tweaks, a couple of moves. But if we're going to become challengers again, I don't see us as challengers right now. I think that we will improve, we'll be fine. We can make a playoff run, but I don't see us as challengers at the moment. I'll see us improving after the deadline. That's it. But what you just said there is I totally echo. So who's the name that comes into mind? Is it easy enough to just say Bradley Beal, or do we think that's out of reach?
I think Bradley Beal's out of reach right now. I just don't think. I've always been, I think, more pessimistic about that than most, because I've never gotten any indication that he wants to leave Washington. And I think it's kind of similar to the Giannis thing, where I think there has been, with some of the younger stars in the league, some pushback against the Durants and the LeBrons kind of going from team to team and seeing that fan reaction, right? I think that's what Giannis said, and I think Beal alluded to something similar, where they really wanted to be known for being loyal, and Giannis didn't want to see his jersey get burned and stuff like that. So until I hear out of Beal's mouth, or like a really good report, a series of reports that he wants out, I just don't trust that they're going to get him. I was big on Oladipo earlier in the season. I'm a little more down on that now. I think my big thing is I think Lonzo Ball is the most promising if you want to talk about. He looks better as a shooter. I think he gives your defense something it doesn't have. He's a pretty good point of attack defender, and he's relatively young. I think the hope would be that you get him working with Spo and you can really maximize his game. And I think the improvement in his shooting is a testament to his work ethic. So I think that's the kind of guy that the Heat would really like to get their hands on. And he's attainable, right? Like a Beal is obviously better than Lonzo Ball. If you can get Beal, you go after him, but Lonzo's on an expiring deal. He might be attainable in the trade market, or he might be attainable as a free agent pretty soon. I don't think he's like a superstar that changes your team's direction, but I think he's more than like a Bielitsa or like Rudy Gay, who, I think those are the tweaks we're expecting to see that don't make them a contender again, but make them a more competitive playoff team. But I think in the long run, Lonzo Ball is the name I'm looking at. John Collins has been talked about a little bit. I'd be interested in that. I don't see it happening. There hasn't been much connecting him to the Heat. I know he's a hometown person. Like, I think it would be cool to have that kind of connection. He's from South Florida, and he would be an interesting fit next to Bam. Not a perfect fit, but I think it would work. And he, again, is like a 23-year-old who I think changes the math long term. It's somebody you can work with in the future, but I think Lonzo is a little more likely.
Yeah, okay, that's interesting. I mean, John Collins, I think if he's available, which looks like he is going to be available, that's somebody due to his age and his athleticism, and I think that's someone that every team is going to be looking at. I think what we've heard is that the Hawks are going to be looking for some sort of draft compensation, which Miami aren't exactly blessed with at the moment. So yeah, maybe a little bit unrealistic, but yeah, Lonzo Ball is a name that's come up recently. If you're on our website, guys, go and check out MiamiHeatUK.com, because our latest contributor, Jack Cummins, has just wrote an article about this, and Lonzo Ball is on that a name on there. So go and check that out. But yes, Lonzo's a player that I like. He's a player that can do a bit of everything. I totally agree with you. What you said, it's not necessarily the name that's going to make you a genuine contender, but it's somebody that will work very well within this organisation under our coaching. So that would be a name I'd be very interested in to see us pursue. Just very quickly on the Giannis, this isn't something I sort of plan to bring up, but we spoke very quickly there about waiting for the next player like a Bradley Beal, and what that can do to the detriment of the team if you just go out waiting for a player that has never really given a true indication that it's going to come, i.e. Giannis in this summer. What happens if the Bucks, who are currently on a 5-game losing streak, what if they end up first, second round exit this year? Does all of this come back round again? And does Giannis decides I've had enough, and suddenly now he's back? Do we start again with this pursuit?
I mean, I think the nature of the nature of the NBA, and specifically the way the Miami Heat operate, is they're always going to be courting guys like Giannis, right? Like Pat Riley wants to get Giannis on this team, and there's no way he's given up on it. My thing is more so that I think the failure of this offseason was not that they went after Giannis. It's more so that they went after Giannis in lieu of other plans, right? That they kind of, once they were out on Giannis, they really didn't have anything except for Mo Harkless and Avery Bradley, which are not the wonderful additions you want to see a team make after such a promising season where they were right at the cusp of victory. Yeah. You really want to see something a little more substantial than that. They got a little worse in the offseason. That was disappointing. So I think it's totally realistic to think, maybe if the Bucks fail again, maybe Giannis kind of changes his mind and says, hey, I want to be on another team. Hopefully that's Miami. And in that case, I think, you do whatever you can to make that happen. But my criticism of, or maybe not a criticism, my caveat would be that I don't think you should wait around for him. I think you make the moves you're going to make, assuming he's not going to come. And then if he really wants to be in Miami, you can move heaven and earth to get him here. And I think that was the same thing that happened with Jimmy Butler, right? They did not have the space to get Jimmy Butler, but Jimmy Butler wanted to be in Miami, and they found a way to move Hassan. They found a way to move Jay Rich, and they cleared space for him. And I think you can always do that in the NBA. I think no contract is untradeable. And I think Pat and Andy Ellisberg are competent enough where if a star really wants to be here, cap space is not going to be an issue.
There are tons of obstacles, but there are none. So yes, that's a good point. We'll see what happens again with Giannis. It could be a completely theoretical thing, but In the words of Michael Scott, I'm ready to get hurt again. So we'll leave that there. Let's have a quick preview with the last two games of this West Coast trip. Now, as we've already alluded to, some real frustrating defeats. We previewed this as you would take a 4-3 before this started out of these 7 games. The best we're going to do now is arguably a 3-4. Who knows? That 4-3 could still come. It would mean taking both of these last 2 games against the Lakers and the Thunder. But that's why those 2 games that, you know, the Clippers and the Warriors game was so frustrating, because both were there, both teams were short-handed. So we could look back at that and really regret it. But just as it just shows how quick things can change and how short-sighted and fickle we all are. After 1 win, I'm now looking at them games and thinking, well, you know, I'm feeling okay about this game, you know, especially the Lakers. They're without AD. They lost again last night. We can give this a good game, can't we?
I think so. I think you have the advantage of it being sort of a revenge game, right? I think Bam and Jimmy really want to beat the Lakers. I don't think they're going to lay down. I think they're going to bring a different energy than they brought to the Clippers and Warriors game, which is infuriating in its own way, right? Like, you think if they can summon the energy to beat the Lakers, surely they can summon the energy to beat the Clippers without 4 starters or whatever. However many players they were missing. They seem to be missing everybody, and it didn't matter for them. But no, I mean, I think it's kind of an any given night scenario. They have NBA star level talent, the Heat do, and they have players who can get hot, right? I think Tyler Herro can get hot. Duncan Robinson, if he can get loose. Kendrick Nunn, like you said, has been playing pretty well. Kelly Olynyk's been playing pretty well, and I think all of those things combine into you should be able to beat anybody on any given night if you're motivated enough and if you're hot enough. I'm not going to put money on the game necessarily.
It's very wise.
I just don't trust this Heat team enough. And even in the scenario that they do beat the Lakers, I think we're all at the point with this Heat team where we agree that no matter how they play, they need to make some sort of move, because they have very clear issues that are not going to be solved by them just playing harder. There are legitimate roster holes.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's you're wise not to put money on it, but I think that it would be so Miami Heat to be literally in the latest downfall of Heat Twitter civil war, and then literally a win against the Kings and a win against the Lakers, and we'd suddenly be unbearable again. And I absolutely love it. I'm here for that. So yeah, we'll see. I think it will be. I think it'll be a really good game. I'm really looking forward to that. At last, we're not looking at a 3 a.m. tip over here. Well, that's not much better. I think 1:30. But that's nice in itself. So I'm really looking forward to that game. Tyler Herro, you just mentioned there. Sophomore Tyler, he's gone from 13-4-2 in his rookie year to 17-6-4. Since he's gone back to the bench, right, coming off as 6-man, he's been exceptional. I'm not putting, I'm not going to do him down, because I don't think he did badly at point. It just didn't really work. So I think that now that Goran came in and done a good job to bring that back, but now he's injured. And now Kendrick Nunn's come back in, and his points have been invaluable, because this was somebody who was just no longer in the faults, no longer in the rotation, and suddenly he's back as a useful NBA rotation player. So what are your thoughts on Tyler, especially his rise already from year 1 to year 2? He looks sharp. He looks confident. He looks like he could almost start becoming a bit of a leader in this team. And he's only 21 years old. It's pretty exciting, right?
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be encouraged by. He did not get the full NBA offseason that you would have hoped for him. Yeah. So I think you have to account for that in any judgment of how he's improved. But he has improved significantly, I think. His 3-point numbers are a little bit down, which I'm not worried about. I think he has a pretty beautiful shot, and he's getting points elsewhere. And I think those 3-point numbers are a little bit of an anomaly, and they'll come back around. But I think he's improved a lot. I think he's been asked to do a little too much at certain points. I think the point guard experiment was a little fine, but they just need wins more right now, and they can't really afford to play with those kinds of experiments. But I think he's been encouraging. I think he's been good. He's improved a lot. There's no reason to be discouraged by his play. My position on him is that he's good and that he's going to be good. But I don't think he is in that untouchable class yet. And I don't want to think of him as an asset. I'm a big fan of Tyler Herro. I think he's a really fun player, and no matter what, I'm going to root for him. But I think he is, I think the way this team is structured right now, you have Bam and Jimmy, and then you have everybody else.
Yeah.
And as great as Tyler has been, I still have a question about where his ceiling is at, because there are still defensive questions. It's not a lack of effort. There are just physical limitations that he has, that he's a little skinny, he's a little small. He is not super equipped to ever become a great defender. And I think that puts a limit on him. And what I see him as, I think he's going to be a really good 6-man in this league, like a really, really good one, like one of the best, like a 6-man of the year candidate every year. But I still haven't seen enough from him to say confidently that he has all-star games in his future or stardom in his future. And maybe that's a little bit unfair. And like, if anybody thinks that he can be a star, I'm not going to argue with them. Yeah. I think, I'm not going to bet against Tyler Herro, but I still have not seen enough to say that he is the future of the Miami Heat, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's sort of his ceiling. I think the ceiling will be an all-star for him. I think that he's completely got the capabilities to do so. It's still a bit early to tell yet. Yeah, you're totally right. In the modern NBA, you need to be a good defender as well. And he's not really built for that. So that is a struggle for him. So a lot of people, when the Harden trade was being circulated, split the fan base with, do you give up everyone basically for Harden, mainly your 3 key assets, which is Duncan, Tyler, and Precious. Let's say Bradley Beal decides that he is leaving in the morning. He comes up with his latest L and furiously decides he's leaving, and the Miami Heat are on the phone. Do you do that trade? Or Precious, Tyler, Duncan for Bradley Beal?
I think so. I think you have to at this point. Just, it's clearly not working as is. They're below 500. This team does not look like it's going to get back to being a contender. You need a pretty big shakeup. So I don't think you can be shy about trading anybody. And Bradley Beal is a guy who moves the needle, and he's relatively young. I think he's 27 or 28. So he's in his prime. You've got plenty of years left in his prime. It just changes everything about your franchise, and I think he fills almost every need you have, not necessarily at the 4 or defensively, but he gives you a scorer that you haven't had in years. Like, I forgot what the number is, but like, I think they have like the fewest 40-point games or something like that. Like, the numbers are startling. They just have not had a really great scorer since, Dwayne Wade and LeBron.
Yeah.
So it would change everything for them.
Yeah, I think the fan base have sort of learned now that it's people fall in love with potential and prospects, and there's nothing like the real article. And I think this time round, a lot of people that were saying no wouldn't make the same mistake again. They would be on board with that. So right, before I let you go, Jack, I've got one last segment here, which is a little game, a little bit of fun, where I've put in. As I said, we're not really sure what this team is, if it's good, if it's not good. So what I've decided to do is I'm going to put in our 5 best players, or our 5 starters, if you like. And then I've put 5 players around the league that I think are on a par, whether it's potential, whether it's ability right now, etc. And I want to see who you take out of each player. So are you ready for this?
Okay.
Okay. So the first player then, would you rather have Jimmy Butler or Bradley Beal?
Jimmy Butler. I've never been more impressed by any player than I have been by Jimmy Butler. Like, I think that playoff run was a religious experience for me where it changed the way I thought about basketball. I think he is a special player that is the kind of guy who can deliver a championship for you. I'm not sure about that with Bradley Beal.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Bradley, obviously, a league leading scorer. We all love him. We'd love him on our team one day. But Jimmy Butler gives you so much more. I think he's just one of the only true leaders in this league. He can do everything. So that is the right answer. I totally agree with you, Jack. Okay, next one. This is a little bit tricky. Maybe not. It might be quite easy to think to sort of snap reaction with this, but you've got to take into consideration age, potential, and availability. So this is Bam Adebayo or Joel Embiid.
That's unfair. I mean, Joel Embiid is without a doubt the better player right now.
Yes,
I think
absolutely.
he is.
And he's having a
Health
great season
permitting,
as well.
I think he is he's who I would vote for MVP right now.
Yeah.
I think he's been that great. And the only thing that can stop him is really health, right? That Sixers team is incredible with him. They just don't lose with him on the floor, and he's unstoppable. I am such a fan of Bam's game, though. I really am just everything about Bam's game. I love. If I'm being perfectly objective, I would have to say Embiid, but in my heart of hearts, I think I gotta go with Bam Adebayo.
It's a tough one. It really is. My brother is a Philadelphia 76ers fan, and I said this to him about a year ago that I would rather keep Bam than Joel, and he laughed in my face. And then it wasn't that much. It wasn't that much like I think it was during that run last season, that bubble run, that he said, "You know what? I totally get why you said that." Not necessarily saying who is the better player. Joel is the better player right now, obviously, but he said, "No, look, I laughed at you, but that's a good take." So okay, right, next one then. Tyler Herro or Devin Booker?
Oh, Devin Booker, I think, for sure. I really like Tyler Herro, but if he's ever Devin Booker, that is that is wonderful. But Devin Booker is already Devin Booker. You know what I mean? Like, Devin Booker is a really incredible player who can do everything offensively that you want a player to do. He can score in every single way possible. He has a bit of a post game, which I don't think Tyler Herro is ever going to have. I don't think that's necessarily a huge knock against Tyler Herro. I think he scores in other ways. But I think Devin Booker has the body and the ability and the skill where he can attack you in the post, he can drive, he can shoot, like he can do everything on the court. And I just don't see Tyler getting to that point. And,
I think that, I think that's a pretty straightforward one. I'm with you again. I mean, as you just said, if Tyler Herro becomes Devin Booker, then he's exceeded expectations, in my opinion, because we've got a lot of hype for him. But Devin Booker is one of the league's special players. So let's hope that Tyler can reach those levels. But yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, at the moment, 100% you would take Devin. Okay, two specialists, Duncan Robinson or Buddy Hield.
Oh, that's interesting. I think Buddy Hield gives you a little more versatility.
Yeah.
But I think Duncan is just one of the best shooters I've ever seen. And I know he's not having the most amazing year, but I wouldn't fault him for that, right? I think it's because they don't have much shooting around him, that offenses or defenses are keying in on him.
Yeah.
And that he makes that Heat offense go. If he gets free, the Heat offense looks wonderful. If he doesn't, they look not great. I don't know if Buddy Hield can do that for you as much as he makes up for it in other areas. So that's a close one. I think that's a really interesting question that I think there would be a lot of disagreements among Heat fans. And I know some Heat beat people might be mad at me for saying this, but I'm going to go with Duncan.
Yeah, fair enough. No, I think it's a really close one. I think it's you wouldn't mind if you was picking five-a-side teams here. You wouldn't mind which one of them ended up on your team. I think it's a close one. I would probably just shade for Buddy for the reasons you just said. I think maybe defensively is a little bit better as well. But Robinson, he's had his ups and downs. Great to see him back. I think he knocked down 5 threes last night, if I remember rightly. So good to see him join the party again. But he struggled a bit this year, mainly because teams have figured him out, and that's the luxury you get in your first season. People learn while you're on the job. So we'll see what happens with Duncan. Right, last one then. Considering as though this could be a reality, Kelly Olynyk or Bielitsa. Always struggle with his name.
That is a really tough one. I think it's Kelly Olynyk because I think Bielitsa is an offensive upgrade. He's a better shooter than Olynyk. He's definitely an offensive upgrade. I think Olynyk has helped the defense as much as that. I think people might scoff at that, but if you look at the lineup numbers, he helps this team on defense. He plays well next to Bam on both ends. And I think he had a really big shooting slump early in the year, and I don't expect that to continue. I think he's been a really good player for the Heat ever since he joined the team. And as much as I'd like Bjelica on the team, I think it would have to be in addition to Olynyk. I think if you move from Olynyk to Bjelica, like, it's a lateral move at best, and you might be getting a little worse. It definitely makes your defense a little worse. So I think I'd side with Olynyk.
Yeah, I agree. I think that I'm not overwhelmed with the links. I'm not going to be disappointed if it happens, especially when you see what he did last night. He had a great game. But yeah, I think that Kelly, he deserves a chance. I think if it's going to happen, I'd like to see it, as you've alluded to, I'd like to see it be both of them together on the same team. So yeah, I think another close one. But I'm with you. I stick with Kelly just. So I think we're pretty much in sync there. I know we split the Robinson and Hield, but we're going. So it's Butler. Yeah, we said Bam, didn't we? We said Bam just. Butler, Bam, Booker, Hield, Robinson. We're not sure on, and Kelly we're singing with as well. So that's a pretty good team. That's a finals team. I'm pretty sure of that. Jack, that was good fun. I really enjoyed talking to you. Where can everybody, if they don't know, and I'm sure they do, but your fantastic show with all the rest of the guys over at Heatbeat who do a brilliant job. Pre-game shows, halftime shows, and of course, hangover time, post-game shows. Where can everybody find that?
Yeah, so I'm on Miami Heatbeat. I do the pre-game show every game 30 minutes before tip-off on our Twitch channel. And on that same Twitch channel, you can find hangover time that I'm on pretty frequently. Right after tip-off goes an hour or more. Sometimes it goes on longer, and we've had some fun guests. We had George Sedano of ESPN on recently, and Alf Sidney's the host of that, and it's been really great. And sometimes I'm on the podcast, which comes out on non-game days, and that's with Giancarlo Navas. It's been fun. It's been a really fun year, and we've had fun seeing you in the chat, and we've had fun, I think, interacting with you and having a new member of the Heat podcasting content community. And I'm excited that I got to be on this pod finally.
Yeah, no, it's been great to have you on. It is a brilliant show. As I said, I think I've made one hangover time, but obviously because of the time difference, I think that was during an early tip. But I'm normally in the pre-game chat, causing a bit of fun. So it is a brilliant show. If you don't check it out, please do so on their Twitch. Follow the Miami Heatbeat on Twitter as well. God bless all your livers, but you do a great job. So keep it up. Also, Jack, where can everybody find you personally on Twitter?
I'm at Alfonso Hoops on Twitter, so you can follow me there.
Yep, usually trolling, Locked on Heat, etc.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a great follow. Please go and follow Jack. Okay, we'll leave it there. Thanks very much again for joining me. We'll do this again sometime, definitely. Until then, let's hope we finish this road trip strongly. Let's go for a 4-3. But if not, let's at least pick up that Thunder win. Let's go 3-4. All things considered, that wouldn't be the worst. We'll be back next week with another show. We'll have the UK guys back with us. And of course, remember, pre-game for 8:30 UK, 3:30 in the US. This is game day from the UK on our YouTube channel. Please check it out and get in the chat and involved and subscribe. Until then, guys, stay safe and we'll see you soon.
You've been listening to Heating Up the UK.
Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts to ensure you never miss a show.
Also, go give us a follow on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook by finding our page at the Miami Heat UK. And subscribe to our YouTube channel, Miami Heat UK TV, for our latest shows and fun content.
That's your Miami Heat from across the pond covered. Thanks for listening.